Just wanted to show everybody, here's the little ticket thing for the Sound of Music tour, and this is the Mirabell Palace. So I just wanted to show you how handy this is. We have our tickets. We are so excited. Here we are for the Sound of Music tour. There's the bus. Doe, a deer, a female deer, and off we go.
Ready for the Sound of Music, folks? Just give us a couple of minutes, okay? You're okay on
You have our tickets.
Yes, thank you. Okay. We are going to talk Sound of Music. And my name is Mitch. And this guy's name, who's very important for movement and wheels and oil and petrol and safety. His name is Haki. He's a good guy. He is a good man, and he's doing it tough down the front here, right? So, folks, he'll be wheeling us around the neighborhood, and I'll be talking to you. Sit back and relax. Are you all Sound of Music experts?
Yes.
Are you all lovers of the movie?
Yes. Yes.
Have most of you seen the movie more than about 10 times?
Yes.
Oh, lots more. Well, folks, here's 3 questions. I'm going to throw at you right now because I need to quantify you. I need to see who's on my level. Right? I'm up there, guys. I'm up there. Right? So, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. I want to find out who the experts are in this bus here. The Sound of Music, in my opinion, is a bit of a phenomenon because here you all are, 41 people in the bus, and it's not even April. It's all but. But ladies and gentlemen, it's still roaring, the Sound of Music. You know, sometimes in July and August, there's 3 big buses full of people. Young, old, middle-aged, everyone. Girls, boys, kids, you name it, they're in here. And it's flowing. The Sound of Music is alive and kicking. And it was made, the movie was made in 1964. What are you guys doing here? Folks, it's a phenomenon. The first question, who started the Sound of Music phenomenon? Who leaked the story to the world? Which one of those Von Trapps leaked their story? I love using dramatical terms.
Friedrich.
Who?
Friedrich?
The first time I've ever heard that answer. Friedrich. He's the least most important of all the kids, I reckon. He's the one I never remember his name. Like I go, Marta, Gretel, Liesel. I used to love Liesel, by the way, growing up in Sydney, Australia. Oh my God, in the 70s and 80s, it was either Liesel or Marsha Brady, ladies and gentlemen. I'll tell you right now. But Friedrich was always the guy I forgot. No, it wasn't him. Who? Which one of the Von Trapps leaked?
Captain Von Trapp.
Maria. Now I'm hearing some dulcet words. Of course, it was Maria Von Trapp. Maria Von Trapp was the one that told her story. And how did she tell the story?
In a book.
Thank you. She's 2-0. Ladies and gentlemen, she's 2-0, this lady. She wanted to sit in the front seat, but you beat her to it. Maria wrote a book. Yes, she did. And here's the hardest of the 3 questions. What year did she write the book? Take a deep breath, hey? Sigh. You know what? It had to be, I'm going to give you a clue. It had to be after 1938 because they escaped from Salzburg in 38. It had to be after that. And of course, it had to be before 1964 when they made the movie. Does that narrow it for you?
51?
Not bad. Very good. 1951, she said. Very good. Pretty good.
Guess.
Anyone else want to have a crack and be like the hero? Who wants to take the car? 1949. Ladies and gentlemen, Maria Von Trapp wrote her book. Does anyone remember the name?
Von Trapp family.
Oh, sir, give it to me 5. The Trapp family singers. Well done. Absolutely correct. She wrote it, and when she was up in Vermont already, up in Stowe in Vermont, and she was feeling sort of a bit melancholish, if you know what I'm saying, because about a year and a half prior to her writing the book, her husband died, Captain Von Trapp. He died in 47, died of lung cancer because he was one of the pioneers of the submarine, okay, this man. So he dies, and then 2 of his kids, 2 of the original 7, 2 of the girls, had gone off and become missionaries in PNG, which is short for?
Papua New Guinea.
Thank you. All the Aussies know that one. PNG, Papua New Guinea. And she was feeling somewhat proud of them because they'd followed a bit in the religious footsteps as she had. And she was thinking, you know what, I've had a great lucky life. It wasn't always good, to be honest. She had a couple of bumps in the road. And she wrote a book. Ladies and gentlemen, this is where it gets a bit interesting. A little German guy picks up the book. Just reminded me of a joke. If I say, I know a little German, can you all say together, what's his name? I know a little German.
What's his name?
Boom, boom. So, ladies and gentlemen, this little German guy, it could have been a big German guy, he picks up the book and he goes, what a great story. What a lovely story to tell. It's what the Germanic people needed at the time, a pretty good feel story of a family that stood up for their beliefs at a time which wasn't easy. And so basically he writes the book and he creates a movie. He creates a movie from the book and it's called Meine Lieder, meine Träume. My songs are my dreams. And the movie was made in black and white, and it was a documentary. There were no dresses made from curtains, I give you the truth. And it was played in the Germanic-speaking world. So they do know, the people of Salzburg even, they do know a lot about the Trapp family. Because the Trapps afterwards as well, when they got established in America, they started to set up like more funds for orphan kids. They'd send a lot of clothes back here. They created like monetary funds for orphan kids from the war, right? So the Trapp family is actually relatively well known, and that movie helped, right? But then it gets ultra interesting, right? The 50s now, we're in the 50s, and this German movie's playing, and Hollywood, they don't sleep, do they? They sleep with one eye open at least, right? Mm-hmm. And someone from Hollywood sees the doco and goes, my God, what a story. And do you know what? Maria von Trapp's in Stowe in Vermont. She's here. She's just up the road. So this agent working on behalf of some really big, powerful people in the entertainment world of America, he starts his convertible Buick in the city of New York. And he drives north to Vermont, Stowe in Vermont. He drives along the Interstate 81. Because I'll tell you this right now, odd-numbered interstates go north in America. I'm going to tell you secrets till the cows come home today, folks. Because I'm a really bad keeper of a secret. My wife never tells me stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, this guy goes up there and he introduces Salzburg to the world because he signs the deal of the century. He goes and talks to Maria von Trapp, right, in his convertible Buick. And I'm going to put a little bit of a Tennessee accent on him, right, a little bit of a Texan accent now. He goes up, he goes, Maria von Trapp? She answers the door. And she goes, hello? And he goes, my name's Bob. And I've got a contract I'd like you to sign, and we want to make a movie about your life. And she goes, okay. She signs, and he rips out a check for $9,000. Gives it to Maria von Trapp. The man has signed the deal of the century, And the frustration, the guy is completely frustrated because he can't tell anyone. He hasn't got WhatsApp. What do you do? What would you do? What would you do now if you did that? You'd go out of your crazy trees. So he gets on a phone, he throws a dime in the phone, and he rings two men. They just happen to be sitting together. Who are those two men? Thank you very much. Rogers and Hammerstein. And he says, I got it. And they go, great. And they start writing music for what is going to be a Broadway production known as The Sound of Music. Bob's your uncle. That's why I call him Bob. And all of a sudden, my friends, the word is out. And the Americans flocked to the stage play, and the musical was fantastic. And they came in droves right through the 50s. Mary Martin was the first Maria. Larry Hagman's mum, right? Remember J.R. Ewing? His mum was the first Maria in the stage play. So this is a massive success. And then 20th Century Fox, they say, look, you know, we're going to take the stage play and we're going to convert it into a movie. But that isn't that easy. It's easier said than done because it's a live studio play. And all of a sudden they've got to convert this into a static movie that's just always going to be the same on the big screen. And Ernst Lehman, he wrote the script for 20th Century, right? He wrote the script and he's like, you know, I can't get all the songs in. I just can't do it. So he pulled two songs out of the stage play and he put one in to replace it. And that song was, I'll have confidence in sunshine. If we all sing that line, it may happen. But the weather forecast tells me something different. So, ladies and gentlemen, they add the confidence song into the movie, but take two out of the stage play. Jiggery pokery. And he finally gets it. He gets it set. He goes, I'm happy with this. And Rogers and Hammerstein got all the music, and he gets the actors. So they start casting. And there was this young girl, British girl with a beautiful accent. Oh my God, she spoke beautifully. And she was doing the theatre scene around America. She'd done lots of musicals, but she hadn't done a lot of movies. And I'm not talking about Audrey Hepburn. I'm talking about
Julie Andrews.
Julie Andrews. Julie Andrews, my friends, this young, vivacious English girl with a beautiful voice. She gets the role of Maria. And, you know, in order to get her to accept, they dangle a $2 million carrot in front of her. And I think this is the way she accepted. Thank God. They get Julie Andrews. Then, ladies and gentlemen, Captain Von Trapp. This is a competitive market in the 60s. And they come across three guys, the last three guys on their list. Yul Brynner, boulder sexy ladies. There's Sean Connery. Ooh, now you're talking. But he wrote himself out at the last interview. He asked them a question. He said, does it mean giving up the Bond girls? And they said, yep. And he went, he winced, he went, and they went, he's not the right guy. And then there was Canadian Christopher Plummer. Ladies, how good did he look in a uniform? Ooh, I heard. Wolf calls coming out. So, ladies and gentlemen, Christopher Plummer got the role. And here's another secret, folks, because I can't tell secrets. He got the role because he had a swagger about him. This little swagger, an arrogant swagger. And you know, they changed the personalities of Maria and the captain completely around when they made the movie. In real life, Captain Von Trapp was a warm, kind, loving father and husband. Maria was the disciplinarian. Ooh, she was strict. You know, she was also in The Sound of Music, Maria Von Trapp. Oh. Remember the confidence song? Yeah. You know, when she dashed her hand through a fountain and she was on the way out to the house, and they focused on this old lady in all her beautiful Austrian gear. Maria von Trapp.
Oh.
She was here in 1964. And, you know, she was really a little unhappy at that character change. And apparently she kept going up to Robert Wise, who was the director. And she'd go, Robert, please, you're portraying my husband as being this horrible, strict father. Maria, I'm trying to film. 2 days later, he'd go up, Robert, please, you have to do something about the character here. Maria, I'm busy. Third time, she goes up and says, please, this is not right. He was such a kind, loving man. And he goes, Maria, in Hollywood, we love fantasy, not reality. That was his answer. So she had to accept it, but they didn't like that little bit. One little bit of The Sound of Music. They weren't too happy about it. Well, she wasn't. So they got the actors, the main ones. Then there was Peggy Wood. Climb every mountain.
Mother, yeah.
Don't start me. Ladies and gentlemen, Peggy Wood, the Reverend Mother. Oh, how good was she?
Ooh.
You know what? Has anyone seen the movie The Blues Brothers? Yeah? Do you remember the penguin, as they call her? It was a very similar role, except, she was a little bit of a good one. Folks, and speaking of the Reverend Mother, have a look over here on the right side. Don't look at the obvious up there. Don't even take pictures of it. Don't do it right now. Look in the distance and look at the red onion-shaped dome. That's the Abbey. Oh my God. That is the Abbey, ladies and gentlemen, which played such a major part in the Sound of Music story. Climb every mountain. And there's a castle as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, they got Charmian Carr. She was Liesel, of course. Oh, she was cute as a button. There was Angela Cartwright. She was Brigitte. And then there was the little one, Kim Cathett. She was Gretel. Oh, I've got some juicy stories about Gretel as well. I'll loof to you because I can't keep a secret, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, they had this star-studded cast and they made their way to Salzburg and they filmed here in 1964. They made the movie. But hey, in 1963, they came here with the creative team. And when I say they, Robert Wise. He was the director of The Sound of Music. And they chose these destinations. Look at the Untersberg over there, folks. They are the Alps. And look over in the distance, see the Alps. Look, getting the last bit of sun. Oh my God. That mountain there is the border between Austria and Germany. It keeps the Germans out. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's the Untersberg. So, folks, they come here in 1963 and they do all their site locations to find out where they're going to film the movie. And Haki, our driver, he drove them round.
Really?
See, some people believe. Some people believe. He was born in 72. But that was a nice question. I'd just like to say, because he knew all the sites, he did the tour. It would have been easy, yeah? Folks, Robert Wise, I just wanted a couple of minutes on Robert Wise. He had won Best Director and Best Film with West Side Story a couple of years prior to doing The Sound of Music. And when he was chosen, they really got their man because out of all the movies that portrayed life in Austria in the 30s and that very delicate subject of Nazis and the 30s, oh my God, did he do a great job at not offending anyone. You know what I mean? And you know how he did it? He introduced 3 characters into The Sound of Music that weren't real. You don't have to yell out now. Think about them. This is your homework. Because when we leave the city, I'm going to ask you who those 3 characters were in the movie. And he did this by adding drama and adding depth to the story. And he tackled that very sensitive issue of living in Austria in the 30s and Nazism. Boy, did he do a great job. He was fantastic. And he won Best Director and Best Movie with The Sound of Music as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's a bit of background about the movie. We are now going to stop very soon. We're going to do our first stop of the tour. We do 2 stops in the city. One of them is at the house at the lake where the kids fell into the water out of the boat. Okay? And we've got a couple of kids on board, I see. We're going to sacrifice one of them and throw them into the water. Then, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to the Gazebo. Will be our next stop after that, right? They relocated the Gazebo. And it's also where the tree-lined alley is, where those kids were swinging out the trees. So we'll be hoisting a couple of you folks up into the trees, and you'll be able to get all those pictures. Then, folks, we go back through past the Abbey. We get really close to it so you can see up to it. It is a Benedictine Abbey still today, so it's off limits. You can't go inside it. On Sundays, you can go into the church, but you can't go into the Abbey. But we'll get really close, and I'll explain some of the real story of the Von Trapps. Then it's out into the countryside we go, ladies and gentlemen. We're going out into what we call Salzkammergut. It is a beautiful array of lakes and mountains. And we'll be doing 2 stops out there. One is at a lookout, which gives us a view over one of the opening panoramic views of the movie. And the other one's at the wedding church. You know, so you get to go into church and see where they filmed the Sound of Music wedding. How does that sound?
Good.
And then we come back around about 10 to 6, thereabouts, 10 to 6, something like that. And we come back to the Mirabell Gardens, you know, because that's where they did the Do Re Mi song finish. And we will make sure you know where that is. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are off and away. Thank you again. I appreciate it. Now, folks, left side of the bus, have a look at the fortress. Look at him. He's looking good today. The fortress of Salzburg, folks. They started building him in 1077, would you believe? 1077. And it took them 650 years to finish it, right? It was a good union job. Okay? But folks, it wasn't the first building built in Salzburg. Salzburg was founded in 696. That's when the good old Catholic Church, gee, they have a good knack, an uncanny knack of discovering business opportunities, okay? And they came to Salzburg because of the salt. And they started to develop the industry, and boy, did they do a great job. They did a wonderful job at building the country of Salzburg. Let me underline that. Salzburg was a country between its founding in 696 and right up until 1809. And that's when Napoleon came through here. He was just like you, doing a European tour. Folks, there was a bit of back and forwards then. Salzburg was French for a year, then there was a bit of back and forwards. And finally, in 1816, Salzburg became Austrian. So for over 1,000 years, Salzburg was its own country. And that big fortress up there was built to protect the interests of the archbishops. Salt, gold, silver. Look to the left. There it is again, the Abbey. Oh my God. Climb every mountain. There it is, folks. We're showing it to you, glimpses. We're going to get closer in about 20 minutes. Look at that, the Abbey. But hey, back to the fortress. Ladies and gentlemen, the fortress was only attacked once in its history. Once. Ladies and gentlemen, it was the middle of the 1500s. There was a period of European history called the Reformation. You may have heard about it. It's when Catholics and Protestants had a little differing of opinion about religion. And you remember Martin Luther? Heard of his name? He'd just translated the Bible into German up there in northern Germany. And he came down into the Catholic lands with all his followers, and they were saying things like, you don't have to do good things for the church to be a good Christian. Catholics are like, whoa, 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 whoa. And then they said, you don't have to give the church anything to be a good Christian. And the Catholics are like, whoa, 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 whoa. Have you ever walked into a Catholic church? They are beautiful. They are adorned and beautiful. Have you ever walked into a Protestant church? They're sparse, cold, simple. There's a lot more superlatives. There Herineth layeth the problem. And they have this big altercation, the Protestants and the Catholics. And of course, the working classes and the farmers, they liked the message of Martin Luther. And they rebelled in certain times. And they ran up the hill trying to overthrow the archbishop who was up there. And it was only through skillful negotiation that he got out with his life. Now look, the Reformation came to an end when the 30 Years' War started and finished. Does anyone know how long that war went for? Just checking. Salzburg was never involved in the 30 Years' War because the archbishop that was ruling Salzburg at the time, these were the early 1600s, his name was Marcus Siticus, right? Marcus Siticus. He refused, under massive pressure, he refused to join the League of Catholic Countries. And therefore, he kept Salzburg neutral in the war. And that's why we have this beautiful city today, a beautiful flowing old city that was never interrupted. It was always maintained. Okay? Marcus Siticus, the man. Other things that were highlights in Salzburg's history: 1816, Salzburg joined Austria. 1756, you know who was born? Da, 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 da. Mozart, born in Salzburg. Another highlight. Right, so there's your historical lesson, ladies and gentlemen. My friends, we need to refocus again on the sound of music. We're heading out to the gazebo and the tree-lined alley. Okay, we'll be out there in a couple of minutes. But on the way out there, we're going to show you the other house, the front facade of the house. Now, we're going to see it from the bus because it's in the middle of a field and it is privately owned by the University Mozarteum. It is the beautiful music university here in Salzburg, started off as a musical high school and has blossomed into a university. It's owned by them, and this is where some of their students live when they're studying at the university. Ladies and gentlemen, the scenes they filmed at the front. Remember when the kids were swinging out of the trees? The car drove along the alley? Do you remember when Julie Andrews got to the house for the very first time? She was swinging a suitcase and a guitar. What was she singing? Confidence. Left-hand side, see the big gold house? There it is. Remember when she stood at the gate singing Confidence? See, the gates are open. Do you remember when they came back from their honeymoon? What was hanging on the front of the house? The Nazi flag. Do you remember when they were pushing the car out at night through the gates? The German car was waiting for them. They got caught. Who was watching them from the window of the house? The butler. And folks, do you remember Rolf the postman throwing the rock up at the window, Liesel's window? It was the only good thing he did all movie. Went back for a second kiss, otherwise he was pathetic. Ladies and gentlemen, left-hand side, look, there's the alleyway. There's the tree-lined alley. 2 bits of good news. We are going to be stopped at the end of the alleyway in about 5 minutes. You can take a picture. And we're going to do this road again on the way back from the gazebo so you can see the house one more time. I know it's hard to see. Right, ladies and gentlemen, Haki, the man in front, the man with the wheel in his hand. Haki, he brought some drinks with him. He's brought an Austrian lemonade known as an Almdudler. He's brought Coca-Cola. He's brought Fanta. He's brought water. He's brought beer. Go on, you good thing. He's brought beer. Look at that, folks. That is a little bottle that will get rid of your inhibitions when the movie and the music starts. You'll be singing without a problem. And champagne. Oh, yeah, hacky. Look at that, little bottles of champagne. That helps you even faster. And it's very, very adult, drifting through the countryside having a champagne. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll talk about prices. Water, I learned last year. You know how much water was? $1.50 last year. But you know we're in inflationary pressures. You know what I mean? It's $1.50 this year. I keep talking to him. I'm like, where did you go wrong, man? Everything else is going up, 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 up. Coke last year was €2. It's €2. Man, you need to get with it. You should be charging $8. We've got a captive audience here. Beer, €2. It's the same as Coke, but it does more for you. Champagne is $3. The bar's open, ladies and gentlemen. It's Friday afternoon. It's time to warm up. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this side, right-hand side, there's the castle of Hellbrunn. This is the castle of none other than Marcus Sitticus. Remember the guy we just told you about? He kept Salzburg neutral by not joining the League of Catholic Countries in the early 1600s. Didn't involve us in the 30 Years' War. But you know what? Marcus Sitticus died before his castle was finished. He never saw the end of it. Because only the good die young. Only the good die young.
Only
I think you can do it better than me. Ladies and gentlemen, over there is the tree-lined alley. Have a look. Look, we're at the end of it. That is the tree-lined alley where the kids were swinging out of the trees. This road, this alley goes literally to the abbey. Right, that far. Now, folks, as a novice, the duty of the novices back then was to... Okay, ladies and gentlemen, start. Folks, you know, that's what we come to look at, folks. So, come on. It's only wet for a little while. Ladies and gentlemen, it was a hard scene to make because the little girl Gretel couldn't swim. So Robert Wise and Kim Cathett were having a lot of dialogue. What do we do? How do we do it? I'm not getting in the boat, get in the boat. I'm not getting in, get in the boat. And they put finally a couple of divers on the side of the lake for her. And they always said that Julie Andrews would fall into the water next to her. It all went pear-shaped. Because Julie Andrews got up in the boat, she was a bit later than the kids, and she went out the back. The kids went out the front. And there was a bit of distress. Gretel went down, came up, went down, but he kept filming. And he left it just that little bit too long to send the divers in. She was quite traumatized. Came out of there quite traumatized. The other thing that happened to her was at the end of the movie when they're walking over the hills into Switzerland. Switzerland's a long walk, folks, just to let you know, right? It's a hell of a hike. That was her double. Remember, Captain Von Trapp was piggybacking her. 10 minutes prior to them filming that, she fell into a bush of stinging nettles. And they had to grab her double. And that was her. That's why they did a piggyback. So they could put a head like that. And you wouldn't see it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So ladies and gentlemen, there were lots of things happened to Kim Cathett. Poor Kim. Folks, on the balcony on the first floor, there was the Baroness. Remember when she came out on the balcony? She said, there's a young girl in there that will never become a nun. Do you remember the scene on the terrace where they were having pink lemonade and apple strudel? Uncle Max was there. Then there was the Baroness again. Remember, she just played that beautiful, entertaining, riveting game of ball with them. They loved her. Exactly. Ladies and gentlemen, remember the gazebo? It was to the left of the house, in the gardens there. But it's not there anymore. Can you see it? No. And it's because it's not there, because it's the fault of the Americans. Every single one of you. Where are you all? Put your hands up. So we know. Don't do that. You guys had the audacity to storm into Salzburg in 1945 and stop the little Nazis party. You put it all to rest. You liberated the place. How dare you? And you also had the audacity to turn this building into a school so that orphan kids could go back into education. How dare you do that? You know, Harry Collins, he was the leader of the Rainbow Division. He's buried in St. Peter's Church in the graveyard with his wife out of the most highest respect for what he did for the local people. Americans are revered here. And that's what it is. It is now a big hotel. It's a big school.
Oh, okay.
It's a big conference center. It's where people have seminars. Harvard, you know, that little university in Boston, they use it as a associate program. And that's why they moved the gazebo. Because we kept walking through the gardens twice a day, singing I Am 16, going on 17. And the people that were studying at this great university, they were going crazy. It was like living next to an airport. And every time I think of that gazebo scene, I think of my partner, Lisa. What was she thinking? I wanted to be the one that had the first kiss. I was in Australia. But she gave her first kiss to a Nazi postman. What was she thinking? Be careful, ladies, with your first kisses. Make sure they're like submarine captains with a lot of money.
Yes, yeah. You can
Hey,
say that
mums.
again.
Moms and daughters alike. Ladies and gentlemen, one thing before we go. This house was bought in 1920. This will just show you how real the sound is. In 1920, this house was bought by a man called Max Reinhardt. This man was a Jewish guy from Vienna. He was famous the world over in the world of classical music. And he came here and bought the house, and he started here the Salzburg Music Festival. It is now the most famous in the world. And the Von Trapps performed here in 1935. They won first prize at the music festival here. And they knew Max Reinhardt really well. They both fled in 1938 from the Nazis. And they met again in New York. And Max Reinhardt promoted the first tour of the Von Trapps to America. The connection, right here, this house. Castle Leopold Skrom, that's what it's called. And it was built in the 17th. Two buildings to make the one. Like one was the back and one was the front. And what you did was you saw one, you didn't see the other. But this one you never saw in the movie, even though they filmed here. But the inspiration for the interior scene
O que ele tá falando?
inside the movie. They had a guy come and draw it. He sketched it, Mr. Zuberano. And they recreated his sketches on studios in LA.
Here we are, Sunday music tour.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, nice to see you back once again. Thank you very much. Now, we're going to go back through the city. We've still got a bit of work to do. Folks. We're going to show you the house again, the front facade, okay? We're going to do that. Then I'm going to launch into a little bit more of the real story of the Von Trapps, okay? Because we're going to see the Abbey. We're going to get a bit closer to it. And then we're going out over the hills into the lake area, and it's funny, you know, like, okay, these rains coming in and out, but it looks clear out to the north. We're going out to the east. You never know, it might sort of gradually get better. I've got a good feel. So, ladies and gentlemen, the house which they used as the front, as I said, owned by the Mozarteum, a music museum in Salzburg, given the name of our famous composer. They filmed the 5 scenes of the movie here. The kids were swinging out of the trees. The car drove along the alleyway. Do you remember when she got to the house singing the confidence song? She stood in front of the gates.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, when the Nazi flag was hanging over the house after the honeymoon, Rolf throwing the rock up at the window, up at Liesel's window, and finally pushing the car out at night trying to escape. Once again, there's the alleyway to your right, and over here, the gold building with the red roof, Castle Fronburg. Castle Fronburg, that's its name, and it is owned by the Mozarteum. We can drive as slow as we can past it for you so you can capture it again. There it is. The gates. They got caught. Who was watching them from the window of the house? The butler. And folks, do you remember Rolf the postman throwing the rock up at the window, Liesel's window? Come on in, folks, come on in. Ah, very good. So guys, what do you think of it so far? Looks a bit small? A little bit? Yep. No, yeah, yes, no, yes, no. A lot of people do say it's a bit small. I have an answer. When they produced the gazebo and they did their filming here, they couldn't get all their cameras and lights inside here. And they couldn't swing it round when the actors were in there. So what they did was produce a semicircle gazebo in a studio, and they finished off both the scenes in a set, on a set. Okay? But they used the gazebo to do the 16 going on 17 and somewhere in my youth or childhood. Lisa was jumping around the benches here, remember one day? Yeah. Slipped. They forgot to put the rubber soles on her boots. She slipped and put her foot through a window, cut her foot. She reckons about 30 minutes later she was back filming. She said it was hardcore. Some days they'd film for 12 hours. Hard, you know? And I heard a very solid rumour that she liked Christopher Plummer a lot. Charmy car. But you didn't hear it from me. I can't keep a secret. So folks, here it is. Take a picture. Toilets are over there in that yellow building. Please use them if you need to. And let's say 10 minutes back in the bus, okay? Thank you.
So this is the gazebo where they sing 16 going on 17. So thanks for coming with us.
Bye-bye.
What will my future be? It will be so exciting. And the Von Trapps left not by walking over the hills. They left on a train, right? They took a day pack each, 1 day pack. They only packed personal possessions. They couldn't arouse suspicion because everyone was watching. He was a man around town. They jumped on a train, told their friends they were going hiking in Innsbruck, and they never got off the train. It went through into Italy, France, London. Why London? Because Lady Whitehead, when she died, left him a sizable inheritance. and it was in the Bank of England. They were a wealthy family. My friends, they stayed, they hoped to come back to Austria, they watched, but Hitler annexed Austria in 1938, and that was it. They boarded a boat for the USPS. And their oldest child was a boy, right? He was a boy. Wasn't Liesel, but he was a doctor as well. He was a doctor, this boy. And he got into America fast, you know, because they needed doctors. And then the Von Trapps came about 2 weeks after they got visas. They were on Ellis Island for 2 weeks. And then into New York. And then they started touring. They went round America for years, singing as the Trapp family singers. And they finally settled in Vermont, where they have a lodge today, big lodge, big, you know, bakeries and breweries and you name it. But it's an interesting story, don't you think? Very true story. Except, okay, the ending was incredibly Hollywood-esque. But other than that, it was a really good story. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going out to the country. We are going to make our way out. We're getting out of the city. We're going out to the lake. So you can sit back and relax. I'm going to rustle through and get some music. Right, ladies and gentlemen, here we go, folks. We are now going to refocus on the Abbey. Ladies and gentlemen, an Abbey played a pretty big role in the Sound of Music, folks. Because you know now that Maria came to Salzburg as a 19-year-old girl. She came here to become a Benedictine nun. But, you know, along the way, she got sidetracked. After a year and a half of being at the Abbey, the Reverend Mother chose her to be the governess for the Von Trapp family. And why? Because Captain Von Trapp's first wife died giving birth to Gretel. And Gretel was born with scarlet fever. So she couldn't go to school in the early years. And that's why they needed a governess. Ladies and gentlemen, Maria came from the Abbey to the house, and she took over the role of looking after Gretel, and then stepped into the role of looking after all the kids. And for the next year and a half, she was at the Von Trapp house, and then Captain Von Trapp asked her to marry him. She had no idea what that was. So she went back to the Abbey and asked the Reverend Mother, what is this thing called love? Marriage. And the Reverend Mother said, in the movie, climb every mountain, right? But in real life, she said, it's the will of God for you to go out and marry this man and have kids and start a family. And that's what she did. Ladies and gentlemen, she went out from 1927. They got married in the Abbey, and then they had 3 more kids between 27 and 1938. And folks, don't forget, Captain Von Trapp, when they got married, was 47. She was 22. Yodeling. So, ladies and gentlemen, you've got to remember these things. 3 more kids. Now, 2 of the girls have passed away. And the youngest of all the children, he was a boy. His name was Johannes. And she was pregnant with him when they left here in 1938. He's still alive, folks. He's still in Vermont. And his family and his grandkids, they run the lodge today. Johannes was always, because he was the youngest, he was always the one that looked after the Von Trapp affairs going forward. Ladies and gentlemen, so the Abbey played a major role in The Sound of Music, and they came back and they filmed 4 scenes here. The first one, when the kids went back to the Abbey looking for Maria. Remember, they knocked on the front gates. Do you remember when the nuns pulled the carburetor pulleys out of the car? It was a good one. Do you remember when the start of the confidence song? When the Lord closes a door, somewhere he leaves a window open. And do you remember that quirky little song, How Do You Solve a Problem Like Maria? Pin it down. Left-hand side, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Nonnberg Abbey. And we're going into this little road here so we can stop and you can look up to it if you want to jump out centre. Left-hand side of the coach, then Hucky's going to spin it round so the right-hand side gets a look. It is the oldest Benedictine Abbey in the German-speaking world. It goes back to the year 714. There it is. Let's go. All right, I'll be the same at you. So, ladies and gentlemen, look, there it is up there on the hill. It is the Nonnberg Abbey. Still an abbey today, still closed to the public, although, you know what, there's only 3 nuns in there. Wow. 3 Benedictine nuns at the moment. The Catholic Church has had to amalgamate some of their orders so that they bring Jesuits even, Franciscans, you know, to make use of the property. The church is open on a Sunday, but the abbey is closed. Ladies and gentlemen, there it is again. On to right.
Dus dan zijn dat is
What will this day be like? I wonder. I wonder too. What will my future be? It will be so exciting. So, ladies and gentlemen, the Abbey, and we know a lot about Maria von Trapp's story. But folks, hey, what about the captain? We need to talk about him. He was a submarine captain. This man was famous. He was a really leading pioneer of submarines. At the early age of 34, he sailed into the First World War as a submarine captain. Ladies and gentlemen, he came out a lieutenant colonel. He sunk 13 Allied ships through the First World War. He was the first ever captain of a submarine to fire a torpedo. His first wife, the one that died giving birth to Gretel, Lady Whitehead, she was the daughter of the man that invented the torpedo. He's up there, guys. This guy's up there. Their factory is still in Rijeka, which is now Croatia. Used to be all the Austrian-Hungarian Empire. But folks, he was on the wrong side of the war, wasn't he? They lost the war. They lost their empire. The Habsburg monarchy was finished. And Captain von Trapp came to Salzburg. His first wife died giving birth to Gretel. She was born with scarlet fever. The Abbey sent him a governess. Her name was Maria. He saw her at the gates. His heart start beating like a jungle drum. And a year and a half later, they were married. And they had 3 more kids here. You couldn't write the script, could you? Someone did. But ladies and gentlemen, it just goes to show you how fate brings us to different parts of the world. It guides us, it brings us there. And all of a sudden we spot someone. And it's just like, my God. It happens to us all. Folks, look at you. I see couples. I see mums and daughters. I see dads, mums. I see families. I see lovers. Ladies and gentlemen, look into each other's eyes now and say, how did I even meet you? In a bar? No. Yeah. But no, ladies and gentlemen, fate drives us and guides us and puts us everywhere. And that happened with the Von Trapps. Can you imagine when Captain Von Trapp finished the First World War, he was a society man here in Salzburg. Maria was 13. She was in a Catholic school. Crazy, go. Anyway, 1938 came, and they had 9 kids, and she was pregnant with a 3rd. And ladies and gentlemen, they had to get out because the Nazis were coming. They were building up. Hitler was already in power. He came into power in 1933. And in 1938, the Austrians wanted him desperately to come and take over because of his economics. You know, when he took over Germany, they had about 83 million people and about 20 million unemployed. In 1938, they had 1 million unemployed. The people liked him. But he was building a war machine in the background, and Captain Von Trapp was telling the people, but they wouldn't listen. I guess when you got a job, you don't. So he left, and he took his family, million unemployed. But people liked him. But he was building a war machine in the background, and Captain Von Trapp was telling the people, but they wouldn't listen. I guess when you got a job, you don't. So he left, and he took his family completely. There's the Red Bulls. Look at them. That's our facility.
Oh, I love
Come on, the Bulls. We're in the middle of the semi-final series right now. In the ice hockey. We're in the middle of the hockey semi-finals. We're playing the team from Klagenfurt. They've won the most titles ever in Austria. The heartlands of Austrian hockey. And we're 2-1 up. 2-1 up in the best of 7. Come on, the Bulls. And there's the 4th game tonight on television. Get yourself into a bar and watch the hockey. Game 4. Come on, the Bulls. 1938, ladies and gentlemen. And the Von Trapps left not by walking over the hills. They left on a train. Right, they took a day pack each, 1 day pack. They only packed personal possessions. They couldn't arouse suspicion because everyone was watching. He was a man around town. They jumped on a train, told their friends they were going hiking in Innsbruck, and they never got off the train. It went through into Italy, France, London. Why London? Because Lady Whitehead, when she died, left him a sizable inheritance, and it was in the Bank of England. They were a wealthy family. My friends, they stayed. They hoped to come back to Austria. They watched, but Hitler annexed Austria in 1938, and that was it. They boarded a boat for the US survey. And their oldest child was a boy. Right? He was a boy. Wasn't lethal, but he was a doctor as well. He was a doctor, this boy. And he got into America fast, you know, because they needed doctors. And then the Von Trapps came about 2 weeks after they got visas. It's so geschätzt aus, weil die schauen nobel aus. Was schätzt du, was kostet so was? Es kommt mit der 6 Millionen Staufenwasser. Ich habe früher in Gras gewohnt, in der Wohnung. Be
like the wings of the bird that flies from the breeze. My heart was like a child that flies to China breeze. Pest me any pest, drive a hornet from his nest. He can probably do a fish out of wine. Now love I meet and you tell me I'm sweet. Willingly I believe.
Yeah. But no, ladies and gentlemen, fate drives us and guides us and puts us everywhere. And that happened with the Von Trapps. Can you imagine when Captain Von Trapp finished the First World War, he was a society man here in Salzburg. Maria was 13. She was in a Catholic school. Crazy, go. Anyway, 1938 came, and they had 9 kids, and she was pregnant with a 3rd. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, nice little chance to sit back and relax there and enjoy some of the scenery as we come out into the countryside. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Salzkammergut. Salzkammergut. This is a region of Austria, a region that covers a little bit of Salzburg, a little bit of Upper Austria, and a little bit of Styria. So it covers three little bits of three different states. It is a beautiful part of the country. There are lakes, there are mountains, there are salt mines, there are ice caves, there are glaciers, there are beautiful little villages, lots of great restaurants, castles, everything in this area. It is a great place for holidaying in the summer. The Lake of Fuschel, you're looking at down here on the left. Lake Fuschel. And keep looking down in the trees. You're going to see a castle. Look at the crane down there. Look, there's the Castle of Fuschel. That is a 5-star hotel called Hotel Castle Fuschel, one of the leading hotels of the world. You know what happened here in The Sound of Music was that the makers of the movie discovered the area and they flew over the top of Lake Fuschel and the castle right at the very start of the movie. These were some of the opening panoramic views of the movie. Lake Fuschel and Hotel Castle Fuschel. Now, talking about the salt, you know, this has always been the place where the salt was found. You know, there's a village out here a bit further called Hallstatt. It goes back 2,500 years BC, the history in Hallstatt. They found graves of old peoples that were buried under salt mines, and they were able to track their DNA to 2,500 BC, back to the Bronze Age. So salt mining and the salt barons have been in this area since that time. In our modern years, this area is a dairy farming area. That's what they use all the landscape for. This is all dairy. And forestry. You can see the lots of forests and trees, forestry and dairy farming. But you know, tourism takes over here. From May to October, all the villages are full of people, lots of families, hiking in the mountains. That's the Schober mountain up there. You can walk up there in about 1 hour to the top, and you can look down over 5 lakes from the top of that mountain. Beautiful. That's what the people do. Then they go swimming at the lakes. And once again, another little look down here on the left, you'll see the town of Fuschel and the village called Fuschel am See. Look at that. Little nests where people come for their summer vacation. Then came the Habsburg family, and they brought all the rich and famous people. Have a look at this castle here. It's called Castle Hüttenstein. It is owned by a family that makes steel in Upper Austria. They've taken it into their trust fund, and they rent it for events. Castle Hüttenstein. But up in the mountains, there are hunting lodges. Then there are these beautiful lakeside villas. It's very, very wealthy. Have a look at the swimming pool for the castle out here on the right. Little in-ground pool. Oh, nice. That's called the Crottensee. Oh, yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, up through the little mountain pass, we're going to drop down into Upper Austria, so a different state of the country, and we're heading to the church. Du sitzt in Deutschland, außer
Just happened to be do re mi, do re mi, do re mi fa sol la ti.
I want to hear you from the back to the front.
Do a deer, a female deer.
So
a needle pulling thread,
a drop of golden sun. Me, a name I call myself. That's it. A long, long way to run. So
a needle pulling thread.
keep going, guys. I know to follow service. Just drink with jam and bread. That will bring us back to don't that will bring us back to Dome. Der von so die
I call myself. I long, long way to run. So I need a holy friend. And look to follow so.
die vor ein Stückchen weiter
To the next bring us back.
Adieu. Last go. A drop of golden sun.
Me, I name, I call myself.
Myself.
And look to follow so.
Tea.
Drink the jam and bread. That will bring us back to dawn.
Follow so.
I drink the
Jam and bread.
that will bring us back to dawn.
That's called the Croton Sea. Oh yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, up through the little mountain pass, we're going to drop down into Upper Austria, so a different state of the country, and we're heading to the church. Oops. The light of the moon used to shine so brightly off the surface of the lake. In the old days, they christened it the Moon Lake, so the fishermen could find their way around here. Fishing is big here. Fishing is huge. They fish for trout, seibling, and rheinunken. They are the three fish that are found liberally in these lakes. And Salzburg is a good place to eat a nice, fresh trout. Okay, lots of restaurants in Salzburg serve it up because it comes fresh out of the lakes here. Folks, enjoy the beautiful view of Austria. 5 minutes. We're going to stop at a lookout. A beautiful view coming up.
When the dog barks, when the bee stings, when I'm feeling sad.
Another one of the opening panoramic views of the movie. The church steeple was seen in The Sound of Music, and the Wolfgang Sea. That's the name of the lake. The Wolfgang Sea and St. Gilgen. Folks, come on, let's hop out and take some photos.
Isn't this great? I think it's great.
Tell them where we are now.
Right behind us is the Wolfgang Sea. It's part of the opening. The gentleman said part of the opening of what you see at the opening of the movie, The Sound of Music. So we are tickled to be here. So thanks for coming along. Love you. Bye-bye. So this is the Wolfgang Sea. It's in the opening, panning one of the big views on the beginning of The Sound of Music. And here we are, the Wolfgang Sea. How amazing is that? Just panning it a little bit more here on the Wolfgang Sea. It's very green. It is so beautiful. We need to come back on a non-rainy day sometime, and we're going to. We are going to.
We are now about to come into our last stop of the tour. This is the little village of Mondsee. Mondsee. And this is where they filmed The Sound of Music wedding. Now, the real wedding was back in the Abbey, of course, back in 1927, but it's still a Benedictine Abbey, so they couldn't use it for filming. They came out here because this is where they were out here doing their panoramic shots, and then they discovered the church. Folks, it's an amazing church, very ornate. You know, the parish of Mondsee was so powerful, they had all the land back over to St. Gilgen, St. Wolfgang, all the way back there. It was a big monastery that went back to the 700s. So huge amount of wealth, and the church shows it. Very, very ornate. So it's called St. Michael's Church in Mondsee. We're going to walk up to the church. It's about a 5, 6, 7 minute walk, okay? And I'll walk you up into the town square. There are ATM machines up there if you need to get money. The church is up there. and we'll walk up and have a look at that. The coach will be parked down here in the terminal, and this is where we'll meet. And folks, we're going to meet back at 5:15. 5:15. So we're going to have the...
So this is Mondsee Abbey, the Abbey from our Mondsee Cathedral. It's Mondsee from the movie where they get married. They didn't get married here in real life. They got married in the Abbey in Salzburg. But isn't it beautiful? And it could, well, it's lightly raining, but it's not pouring for a minute. So beautiful. Isn't that beautiful? Should we walk up and sing? How do you solve a problem like Maria? How do you catch a wave and pin it down? It's a cloud. Oh, there's the Good Samaritan. I just feel a little touched. When I watch the movie, it makes me cry because it's so beautiful and special. And here we are. Okay. And I'm going to put on one. Too bad the organ's not playing today. Aren't these beautiful? Look at that.
Last Supper.
We're there? Yep. It is indeed. So here we are at Mondsee at St. Michael's Abbey, and we are so happy to be here. It's where the Captain and Maria were married in the Sound of Music movie. So thanks for coming with us. Love you. Bye-bye. Oh, just... And here is our Sound of Music bus. We're here in Mondsee. The circus is in town. The King's Circus. But this is our fun bus tour. Here, Gordon, do you want to wave? Okay.
All right, folks, another lake, another valley. It just keeps giving. The scenery in the Salzkammergut is amazing. This one here is called Lake Mondsee. Mondsee, which means the moon lake. The light of the moon used to shine so brightly off the surface of the lake. In the old days, they christened it the Moon Lake. So the fishermen could find their way around here. Fishing is big here. Fishing is huge. They fish for trout, seidling, and rheinunken. They are the three fish that are found liberally in these lakes. And Salzburg is a good place to eat a nice fresh trout. Okay, lots of restaurants in Salzburg serve it up because it comes fresh out of the lakes here. Folks, enjoy the beautiful view of Austria. I've got just the song.
Slow and white, clean and bright, you look happy to meet me. That's my homeland forever. Bless
So this is Mirabell Gardens. Isn't it beautiful? And look, I think this is the only place we've seen flowers this far in our trip, right? Aren't they beautiful? Look at that. Little purple pansies touched with yellow gold, and those tulips, the golden pansies. Pansies are always good for this early spring. Oh, and look, they have those hyacinths are coming. They're starting to blossom. So pretty here. You can hear the church bell ringing. So Mirabell Palace is now a government building.